Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel for my review of chapter 261 of Black Clover, almost at 262. Anyway, let's just jump right into the chapter because I am running off of like 2 hours of sleep right now and I want to make sure that I'm actually able to talk about the things I want to talk about without losing my train of thought. In fact, to make sure I didn't do that, I took down some notes while I did my second reading of the chapter just to make sure I talk about all the things that I want to hit on. But anyway, enough rambling, let's just get right into the chapter. So the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that this chapter, and I mentioned this in my spoiler video that actually came out yesterday, because I believe I'm going to have this video up Saturday morning, or at least by early Saturday afternoon after the chapter came out. But in my spoiler video talking about the few leak pages that we got earlier on in the week, I mentioned that I feel like this chapter is going to feel like an epilogue to the phase 1 of events when it comes to this whole arc, or this whole storyline of dealing with the Spade Kingdom and the war between the Clover Kingdom and the Dark Triad over there at the Spade Kingdom. And this chapter really did feel like one giant epilogue. And I feel like we're going to get more of this. I feel like that this chapter won't be the end of the epilogue. I feel like we're going to actually have a couple of chapters over the next few weeks dealing with the epilogue. So basically the way I see Tabata planning it out is that we're probably going to have this chapter, I mean obviously we already had this chapter, but we're probably going to also have next week's chapter dealing with the results of Asta and the Black Bull members who were there with him, you know, Gouch, Vanessa, Finral, Gray, dealing with them basically lamenting over the fact that they weren't able to protect Yami or able to save him from being kidnapped. And we're going to basically have them resolving to get stronger so that they can go and rescue their captain. So we're probably going to have the next few chapters dealing with that. Then we're probably going to switch gears and head over to the Heart Kingdom, assuming that Noelle and them are still over there. We'll probably switch gears over to them and basically see the same kind of thing go down, where they are lamenting as well the fact that they couldn't protect Corpo Chica, especially Noelle and the Spirit Guardians. Because when it comes down to it, those are the characters that should be hit the hardest by the sequence of events that just went down in the Heart Kingdom. Noelle, obviously, because of the fact that Megicula was right there in front of her. This was her chance to get revenge for her mother's death, and she failed at doing it. Not only that, but not only did she fail, but her new friend was kidnapped because of it. And when it comes to Spirit Guardians, obviously their one job, especially Gaja, their one job is protecting not only the Heart Kingdom, but protecting the princess of the Heart Kingdom as well. And I mean, it's pretty obvious that they dramatically failed at that job. So I mean, obviously they're going to be hit hard by this. And then we're going to get the same thing we got with the Black Bulls, them resolving to get stronger, and basically introducing the way that they will end up getting stronger so that they can go back, save Corpo Chica, and defeat the Dark Triad. Then we're going to get a third epilogue, or like a third sequence of the epilogue, focusing on Yuno and the Golden Dawn members who actually survived. Most likely Klaus and just like a few other main characters. Maybe we'll see Langris jump back in, since he was the previous vice captain. As far as I'm aware, he hasn't actually been kicked out of the Golden Dawns. He just was replaced as vice captain by Yuno. But anyway, we're going to most likely see them basically, again, lamenting the fact that they were not strong enough to basically defeat the Dark Triad members who actually came and attacked their base. Half of them were killed off, and their captain was kidnapped. They, out of everyone, was hit the hardest. So, of course, they are going to be the most emotional out of everyone over the sequence of events, and I feel like that Tabata should save them for last when it comes to like basically giving us the epilogue to these main points for the storyline, because like I said, they were hit the hardest. So you know, it's going to be even harder of a hit for us readers when we watch just how emotional, especially when it comes to Yuno, someone who's usually very stoic, you know, show some emotion here and there, but usually only when it comes to Asta, showing exactly how emotional he is and distraught he is, or the fact that he failed to protect not only his fellow squad members, but his captain. That's something that I feel like Tabata is going to put every ounce of his writing prowess into writing. So I'm hoping that he actually takes the time to basically just think out exactly how he wants that to go out, and put them last, so that the emotional hit is that much harder. Alright, so I was actually thinking about it after I got done reading the chapter for the first time, and I realized that this actually truly is kind of like an epilogue to all the events that just went down. And I really like the way the Tabata is kind of, in my head at least, breaking this storyline up into phases. And what I mean by that is like, alright, we got like a prelude phase, we had phase 1, we're going into what seemingly is going to be phase 2, and then I'm thinking that after phase 2 is done, we're going to get phase 3, which is the finale to this entire storyline of the war with the Spade Kingdom. So alright, so what I mean by phase 1, or what I mean by the phases, is basically the prelude phase was chapters, I would say 216 to 228. Basically, right after we got done like the kind of transition from the previous storyline dealing with what was his name, Zagred, and basically everything that he put forward, that the big plot line that had been building up since the beginning of the series, that was put to bed. And then we were transitioning over to the war with the Spade Kingdom that we're currently in. Basically, once we get to chapter 216, when Asta was accused of being connected to a devil, and then up to the point where we got the 6-month time skip, that was, in my opinion, the prelude to the storyline. Then, phase 1 was chapter 229 all the way up to chapter 260. Then, of course, obviously, we get this chapter, which was the beginning of the epilogue to phase 1. And most likely, we're going to be going, I want to say, I'm predicting, this is chapter 261. I'm predicting that we're going to get at least 2 chapters per set of characters. So maybe, let's see, 261 was the beginning of Asta and the Black Wolves. So next chapter, 2 chapters for Noelle, then 2 chapters for Yuno. That's another 5 chapters. So maybe chapter 267 or chapter 266 will be the last epilogue chapter, and then 267 will begin phase 2, which I believe is going to be another training arc. Basically, since we skipped over to 6 months of training, and Tabata saw just how, a little upset us fans kind of were about the fact that we were just doing a time skip, skipping over to 6 months of training, and that a lot of us actually wanted to see that training go down. Maybe this is basically his way of fixing that by giving us another set of training for these characters. Because everyone, including the main 3 characters, Asta, Noelle, and Yuno, the main focus characters for this arc, they obviously have to do a lot more training, especially Yuno, if they want to stand a chance of saving the people that were kidnapped that were important to them. So, this will be the perfect time for phase 2 to basically focus for like at least the same length that we got for phase 1 of these characters training in order to get stronger. So that when they end up facing off against the Dark Triad again, it is believable that they can actually stand toe to toe with them. And then of course on the back half of phase 2, we'll get the Dark Triad, basically their side of the story, preparing their ritual in order to basically let the demons just invade the entire planet. And then of course, once phase 2 is done, we'll get a few chapters focused on the characters, kind of coming up with their plans of exactly how they're going to sneak into the Spade Kingdom in order to save the people that they need to save. And basically everyone, at least the 3 main characters, resolving to finish their fight against their main opponent. Obviously, like I said before, Asta versus Dante, Yuno versus Zeno, and Noelle versus Megicula. And then of course phase 3 will be the finale to the entire sequence of events where they actually go into the Spade Kingdom, fight off against the Dark Triad, and eventually win. Now, real quick, I do want to point out that the reason why I said Noelle versus Megicula, even though I had Yuno versus Zeno and Asta versus Dante, is because when it comes to the other 2 characters, Yuno and Asta, their beefs are actually with the humans. But when it comes to Noelle, her beef is actually with Megicula, not exactly Vanica. I mean, obviously Vanica is going to be the physical opponent she's facing off against, but when it comes to getting revenge, her main focus is Megicula. So he or she is actually her target. Vanica is just basically someone standing in her way. That's going to be kind of collateral, not really collateral, because Vanica was just as involved with Aether's death as Megicula, but still, the point still stands that Noelle's beef is mainly focused on Megicula. Anyway, guys, getting into the actual chapter now. So the chapter begins. We see that a few hours have passed because it's now pretty much nighttime. Asta is being checked out by Owen. The rest of the Black Wolves are there with him, and basically, Owen says there's nothing really wrong with Asta physically, but obviously his arm has been transformed into like this black looking demonic arm, and Owen has no idea how to fix it. And obviously none of them know that Asta's arm is like this because he made a pact with AMD to basically sacrifice a part of his body in order to gain the power he needed to defeat Dante. Since Asta's passed out at the current point, he obviously can't explain this to them, so they're just kind of a little bit worried. They wanted to get Owen to take a look at him. But anyway, yeah, Owen says that there's nothing really wrong with him, and then Gray actually speaks up and says, hey, can you take a look at Gouchin? Because she's still worried about whether or not she actually did truly heal him. And when Owen talks to her about it, he's like, this healing magic that you did isn't exactly traditional healing magic. I mean, you basically made it seem like the stab wound never happened. Like his tissue, his actual body tissue is repairing itself almost as if like it was never damaged in the first place. Which then leads him to question, do you really have transformation magic? Which is something that was actually brought up a few chapters ago when Gouch actually regained consciousness and he himself realized that his wound was gone and he was questioning, was I really stabbed? And my main takeaway from this is that maybe Gray's magic isn't traditional transformation magic. Maybe her magic ability is actually somehow related to basically manipulating things on a molecular level. Because honestly, that's the only thing I can think of at the current moment that would make her previous exploits with her transformation magic make any sense. We also end up finding out from Owen that there's actually going to be in a few days a meeting held between all the captains of each squad. Obviously, 2 captains are going to be missing from that meeting, so we know that William and Yami won't be there. So the question becomes, are they going to send representatives from each squad to basically replace them? Would it be the vice captains, which obviously would be the vice captain for the Golden Dawn, so he would show up at the meeting. And then possibly, obviously everyone already knows about this, the spoilers were out there for a while now, all week. You probably already heard, we do get introduced officially in this chapter, or at least officially according to the fan translation. Maybe, the translator was just a little overzealous and, believing in the hype. Maybe they translated wrong about the person saying at the end of the chapter that they are actually the vice captain. But assuming they're right, we do get introduced to the vice captain of the Black Wolves in the chapter. So potentially, if Yuno is able to basically represent the Golden Dawn in the meeting, this person will also be able to represent the Black Wolves. Okay, so after that, we head to later on in the same night, and Asta is finally waking up, and he's realizing that he's in a completely different area from where he passed out as. And the first thing he does is actually open up his grimoire and summon the sword that Yami gave him, which is really cool because I was hoping that he would actually be able to keep that sword. I wanted for a long time now for Asta to actually get a brand new sword. I'm extremely excited to see that he's getting to keep this one, and it's even more, basically, it's more heartfelt. I can't really think of the words. Anyway, basically it's even better knowing that it is a sword that his mentor Yami gave him. Now, I have 2 questions about the sword. 1, what is he going to call it? What is the name he's going to actually give the sword when he summons it? And 2, what will its extra ability be besides being able to basically use Asta's anti-magic abilities? Because each one of his swords has a different ability. So I'm wondering, what will this sword's ability be? Because prior to this, since it was just a random katana that Yami had, it didn't have its own magical ability. So I'm wondering if his grimoire will actually give it a magical ability, or if it's just going to be a normal katana. Alright, so I actually really like the fact that the first thing that Asta does, as soon as he remembers exactly what just went down, is he hops out of the hospital bed and he just heads straight for the Space Kingdom. He's on his way to go to the Space Kingdom, basically to try to rescue Yami. No plan, no backup, just on his own, heading over there without any kind of real strategy. And this kind of recklessness, this kind of boneheadedness is just, it makes it hit even harder what Nock, the character we get introduced to at the end of the chapter, just says about Asta. Because everything that Nock says in this chapter about Asta is 100% right. But anyway, while Asta's on his way to a suicide mission to basically invade the Space Kingdom and try to fight off against 3 devil-possessed people at the same time, which I don't know where Asta's mindset was. I mean, obviously he didn't have a mindset. He's basically just thinking, I have to rescue Yami. Doesn't matter. I have to find a way to get it done. Obviously, he's not going to win because Asta needed help in order to basically defeat 1 devil-possessed person, and he's planning on fighting against 3 people at the same time. There was no way this was ever going to go down well for him. If he would have went there, he would have died within 5 minutes of the fight. Maybe he would have lasted a little bit longer than that, but I honestly would have gave him 5 minutes, probably not even that, before they killed him off. But while Asta's on his way to his suicide mission, he actually gets stopped by Shikamaru's shadow possessing jutsu, which is really cool to see the fact that Noct, this brand new character, has this technique, because Shikamaru is one of my favorite characters from Naruto. Actually, not even one of my favorite characters. He is my favorite character from all of Naruto. And seeing that Noct has a similar ability, it just automatically warms me up to this character. And this actually confirms that at least one of the abilities that Noct actually has access to is shadow magic, because that was actually kind of a debate back in chapter 246 when they were first introduced. When we see them using shadow magic, obviously we know that now shadow magic was what they were using, but when we see them using their magic to basically kill off the person or get rid of the person who caught them and identified them as a spy of the Clover Kingdom. Back then, at least I know on my part, there was a little bit of debate of whether or not the character was actually using shadow magic or they were using spatial magic, but in this chapter we get confirmation that yes, they actually were using shadow magic. Although we don't know if the shadow magic is actually their original magical ability or if that's actually their demon's magical ability. Now the chapter actually ends with basically Noct revealing to Asta that they are also devil possessed as well, and obviously Asta is very shocked by this. But I do want to point out that on the site that I read the fan translation on, there's very obviously a page missing that was in my video that of the spoilers that came out earlier this week. And I'm assuming on that page is where Noct reveals what their name is and who their devil is, because those were the two main things that were talked about from the spoiler images that we got earlier in the week, that the character's name was Noct. And we don't know if it's a guy or a girl yet. I've seen like mixed reports from people on Reddit. Some people are saying that the character's using the masculine translation when saying words like I and me, and some people are saying that it's a feminine translation. I don't know myself, so I'm going to wait until it gets officially revealed later on in the series. But anyway, what we got from it was the character's name was Noct, and that their devil was named Satan. And neither one of those are mentioned in the chapter that I read on the site that I read. So I'm guessing that once the official translation is out, I'll get to see exactly what that final page actually says, what dialogue is mentioned, and get the official reveal that yes, this character's name is Noct, and yes, that their devil's name is actually Satan. Also, in the leaks that came out earlier this week, people were mentioning on Reddit that were able to translate the dialogue from the chapter or from the images that Noct had actually offered to teach Asta how to properly use his devil magic or his devil abilities. And again, that's not in this chapter, so I'm assuming that once we get the official translation, we will get to see on that missing page Noct basically saying that, hey, I'm going to train you on how to properly use your powers so that you won't lose in the fight against Dante and them again, or at least that you can actually take the fight on by yourself. Because that is one thing that Noct actually brings up, and actually a criticism that I've had of Asta since early on in the series, or at least since the big fight against Veto. And that is that basically a majority of Asta's main fights have been team-ups and not one-on-ones. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for my review. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought about the chapter and the reveal of the brand new character, the Vice Captain of the Black Bulls, Noct, or Knight, as some people are saying the translation could also mean. But I've heard that Noct and Knight actually are the same words, that Noct actually means knight in German. So regardless, they're going to be the same name. Either way, it's just going to come down to which one the bot actually wants us to call the character, if he wants us to call it Noct, or if he wants us to call them Knight. But regardless, cool introduction to the character. Nice seeing the fact that they have shadow magic, and it's kind of a similar technique to Shikamaru's. Instantly made the character someone that I'm going to instantly like. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Share this video everywhere you can, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.